So, welcome to Field Diagram or Field Sketch, if you want to call it that, although it's not a sketch masterclass. And two things there that you'll definitely need when you're doing field diagrams: your protractor, which you can see on the screen, and your eyes. And you might need to use your squinty eyes. That'll make sense in a minute, don't worry. You may be thinking, why are we doing field diagrams or field sketches? Because they look like this and they're in your field notebooks and stuff like that. But they can ask you to do them in exams or to add things to a partially completed sketch or diagram. So it's very important that we don't ignore them. So just take you through some key points. It is not a sketch. Yeah, these diagrams that you can see here on the right hand side, this one, and also the one below here, which I'm sort of partially hiding, is a diagram. Treat it like that, and this is where the half closed eyes go in. You're looking to pick out key features, and if you do that through half closed eyes, you will just pick out the key boundaries. You can see on this diagram here, the bedding planes are very straightforward. There's no sort of shading or anything like that. If there is some shading, which is on this one, it's minimal, and it's maybe to identify a particular rock type or a key color. So they've used a little bit of green on this one in here, in this area. Make sure you know which direction you're facing, and that goes with any diagram, because you need to work out dip direction and so on and so forth, or the trend, so a strike trend, which in the case of the diagram at the top here, we are looking at looking in this direction, which is, you know, going to be south. North is actually going to be behind us. All right, so that's absolutely key. The other thing is mark on key boundaries like significant bedding planes, fold structures, minor intrusions, faults, unconformities. And you can see here that there's an active unconformity on this one, which is the current surface there, because it cuts across the fold that would be going upwards there. So we would have, you know, that sort of structure is what we would have had, but it's missing. All right, so you've got a key unconformity on there already. And you can see the fold structure as well, because they're just keeping it nice and simple, nice and straightforward. Scale is absolutely essential. In fact, there's no scale on these ones, but if we need to put thickness on, so in the exam, if they've given you a scale, keep to it. All right, don't have thick, you know, a thickness which is not accurate. Make sure you use some symbols as well if you need to, or add labels. Don't overcomplicate it. This person here has used some simple symbols, and the more descriptive stuff is just to the side or just actually below the main diagram. And you might need to mark on baked margins or things like that, and you might want to use a little B for that sort of symbol or something like that. Protractor goes without saying. Get the accuracy of your bed dip from the horizontal. All right, otherwise you will, if it's in an exam, you won't get the marks, because they will, you know, they'll be checking that. And measurements, add in some measurements. This person, you can see, has clearly put in some measurements. So we've got the dip there, and we've got the dip reading here as well, which is going to be useful, adds a bit of information, and there's some other measurements up here as well. Don't try to put too much on your diagram. It gets too full, too clustered, but at the same time, it shouldn't just be lines. Yeah, it can't be too bare. So it's all about balance when you're looking at your field diagram or your field sketch. We don't want it too clustered, and we don't want it too bare. And I think that example there is quite a nice one. Tip: be accurate. Have a sharp pencil, because that's going to allow you to be far more accurate and more precise. And pay attention to the scale and the direction. I think that summarises the things that we've looked at. So we'll have a look at a couple of examples because there's lots of variation about how they could ask you in an exam. Okay, so this is an example from fieldwork. Actually, we've been to Kimmeridge Bay at the top, and you can clearly see here we've got a lovely fault plane which is running down here, and I've put it onto my my field sketch there. That's just an example of a completed field sketch. A couple of things that I would actually add, and that's that the football is on this side and the hanging wall is on this side. I've put my displacement on there, my displacement arrows. Here we go, moving that way, and I think this is moving up. We've got other key features like little landslips over on this side. I've put stuff that I've identified when I'm there, like ammonites on this bed, things like incompetent layers, competent layers. That's limestone because I tested it when I was there. That type of thing is an example which is actually in the lab on one of the posters that you can have a look at. But I think it's quite a nice one to start with. So we have a look at a couple of other examples, but they probably won't ask you to do, you know, a full field sketch from a photo, but they might. I mean, it's a key skill that you need to be aware of. They might ask you what features you would be adding to a particular photograph. They might ask you how the methods that you might use to record data in the field, and you might decide to talk about using a field sketch, and it's very useful to show the age relationship and the structures like faults. They're the types of things that you could be asked about. Anyway, we'll have a look at another example on the next slide. Okay, so like I previously mentioned, you could be asked to do a field sketch or field diagram from a description. That is, you know, I think a lot harder than doing it from a photograph. There's a description at the bottom there. The area was a beach, exposure faced east, so we're looking east. There was an igneous intrusion cutting across the country rock. So that's something that we would need to consider, and I think it's a key skill. So we've got the intrusion here running in this direction. Just shade in the bit that's the intrusion very quickly for you, and that's something they might ask you to draw from this description below, but they would probably give you an idea of dip, direction, thickness of it, but it's becoming familiar with what you know, you'd expect to see, and they're talking about heavily folded areas, and the contacts are sharp, so they are very distinctive lines, and that's the type of thing you could be asked to do in an exam. And you know, if you're adding in annotations, they might be things like this. I think that's a bit too clustered, so I would probably be looking at maybe moving this section here, maybe this bit here. I might move to the side and write it here, just so it's not clustering up too much. So, but they're good examples of labels that you can add in, and that's the type of thing that you might be adding to your field sketch, which you saw on the previous slide. Okay, so welcome to the example question section. I've taken my image out of the way so that we can actually see locality 3, because that's really important for this question, and we've got a simplified geological map which is very similar to component 1 paper. You can see you've got X to Y, so you're going to be asked to draw a cross section across there. But locality 3 is going to be really important for what I want to show you. We've got figure 4A and figure 4B, and it says that the student has done a field sketch there, looking north, all right, at locality 3. So I think that's really useful to us. We've got some sedimentary rocks, and we've got boundary with an intrusion, which you can clearly see here. There's there's a boundary in here. We've got igneous on this side. This is all igneous, and then we've got sedimentary on this side here. So that boundary there is that section there really. This is all igneous on this side. The with reference to figure 4a, it says, you know, igneous body could be represented by, you know, figure 4a. I'm hoping that you can, you know, think about this and identify whether you think it is a dike, a sill, or a lava flow. Yeah, you can tick one or more boxes, but remind yourself of what they are and what they mean, and have a go, and then have a look at the mark scheme and see if you were right. Figure 4b is a field sketch, so the one below, and it shows rock unit C drawn at another location within the area shown on map 1. So what we need to be identifying is where this location was drawn, probably, and that's all about orientating yourself and working it out. There's a big difference between the two, and that's this wavy line here, okay, and the beds above. So clearly something is happening in here. There's some sort of unconformity, isn't there? There's a period of erosion. So we'll have a look at the question associated with that on the next slide. Okay, so same question that we were just looking at, and I'm back because I can fit in the corner here now quite nicely. We already said that there's an unconformity here, and I think that's going to be absolutely key for your reason at the top, because what it is asking you for is indicating with an arrow KK on the map somewhere, and the locality of the field sketch, and this field sketch is below, so figure 4b. So we've got an unconformity. Where's the unconformity on the map? Well, you're looking for a change in dip. So I would be looking at that map and thinking, well, there's a change in dip here. Look, this is horizontal. These layers are horizontal here. We've got some dip readings here and here, and also here. So you've probably got an unconformity which is running along here somewhere. So where are we looking is going to be very, very important. We've got a west side, we've got an east side, and the boundary between the intrusion and the sedimentary rocks is there, so the igneous body will be on the westerly side. So we're clearly no longer in this locality, but you'll hopefully be able to work out where it is. I personally would have been putting it somewhere in, you know, this region here, because you know, we've got that locality, but you need to be more accurate than that. So I would probably be indicating it as an arrow and making sure that it's nice and accurate on there. So that would be my K point in that section because of the orientation. And the second part is a student concluded that rock unit C is a sill. Okay, so we've got to identify, you know, is that a sill or not? I don't know. What is a sill? Do we agree with it? You know, look at this section here. It's going to be absolutely key to working that out. And then check it against the mark scheme. What do you think, based on the orientation of those, that igneous body, which is rock unit C, and the rest of the surrounding rocks? So good luck, and then check your answer. Thanks. This is the mark scheme. As you can see, there are lots of different options, and you can, you know, check your answer and see what you, well, how you did. Good luck.